Hello, I am the Understudy, and this is the channel where we discuss everything musical theater related. Today, we are reading Barron's AP Music Theory, 3rd edition by Nancy Fuller-Scoggin, BME. This is a long book, and I'm working my way through it to learn more. These videos are a way for me to organize my own journey, but I am happy that you're here with me. Before we start, if you have any questions throughout, just leave them in the comments. This is part 19, Strategies for Melodic Dictation, Free Response 1 and 2. Melodies, they're everywhere. We sing them in sight singing exercises. We write them in part writing exercises. We analyze them in phrase structure examples. And we've been performing them in bands, choirs, and orchestras for years. So why is melodic dictation so hard for students? It is one of two reasons. One, melodic memory or melody memory. You can't write down what you can't remember. That's where using a system of solfeggio or numbers help. It identifies the pitch with a label or name the brain can remember. 2. Notation breakdown. If you can't retain the melody and are able to sing it back but cannot correctly put the melody down on paper, the problem is notation, that is, a lack of understanding how the melody looks on paper. This skill has two sides, pitch and rhythm. Some students understand what the pitches are but can't correctly write the rhythm in the correct place within the measure. Some students get their rhythms correct but miss the pitches by a step or a third. For most students, it's a combination of both. For some, anxiety is so great they fail to get much of anything written on the paper. We are going to look at this process, break it down step by step, and come up with a plan to maximize your potential for success and melodic dictation. Tips for melodic dictation. 1. If you can't get all that you can. Students lose points on the melodic dictation portion of the exam simply by struggling to get it all. They become frustrated and end up with nearly nothing. We, the teachers, evaluators, and readers, want you to demonstrate how much you know. It is not about knowing everything. Once again, we start with a plan and work smart. 2. Use logic and plan ahead. The music will tell you so much to help you prepare. I call it the if-then method. What is given? The clef, the key signature, the time signature, the numbers of measures, and the first pitch are given. From that, we can deduce the key, probably the last note, and the possible half cadence, W equals so, or T, or re, in the middle. Clef, clef, clef. If you make the mistake of overlooking the clef, your entire melody could possibly be wrong, as in sight singing. Write down the key in big letters somewhere on the paper. Just the physical act of connecting pencil to paper helps you to focus. What pitches are connected to what solfege and numbers? Once again, write it down somewhere on the margin on the papers. Use your time to prepare your brain for what might occur. Anticipate. So we have the so, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, for example. The last note is always do, the tonic. Pencil in that pitch. I wonder why they put the do here, the so here. Is it just because that might be the the anacrusis or something? I'm not sure. Anyway, the last note is always do, the tonic. Pencil in that pitch at the end of the last measure. Could be high or low. Anticipate what is likely to happen and let your ear confirm it. Knowing the time signature will give you a clue to the duration of the last note. If the time signature is 4/4, the last note is probably a half note. If the time signature is 6/8, the probable last note is a dotted quarter note. Is there an anacrusis? If so, that usually tells you two things. Since an anacrusis is commonly so, the most often going to do, the first note on the downbeat most likely will be do, the tonic. You must also consider the change in durations in the last measure. If the time signature is 4/4 with a quarter note anacrusis, the last measure will probably have a dotted half note. Make sure the anacrusis and the last measure equal a full measure. Are you in minor? An accidental must be used to create the leading tone. A melodic dictation example in minor will always have at least one leading tone that requires writing an accidental. Evaluators, whether that's your classroom teacher, the readers grading your exam, or the college professor assessing your skills for acceptance into a music school, will all want to know that you can, 1, recognize the various forms of minor when you hear them, 2, anticipate the use of the raised 7th scale degree, and 3, recognize the possible use of the melodic form of minor in an ascending pattern, almost always in the scale pattern so, la, ti, do, instead of harmonic so, la, ti, do. The use of te from the natural minor is also a common alteration, particularly as a complementing descending pattern following melodic minor, as in the following example, as you can see on the page here. We have harmonic, then melodic, then natural. Write the name of the leading tone in big letters underneath the key signature to jog your memory when you begin to write in harmonic minor. Are you in compound meter? Or one of the examples will be in 6/8 time. If rhythm is problematic, use a rhythm menu. Plan ahead by thinking about and writing down what possible rhythms are going to be used. You can't write down every possible combination, but you can certainly anticipate the most often used rhythm. Recognize, but don't write as part of the menu, other rhythms that are primarily variations of 16th note subdivisions and dotted rhythms. With the rhythm menu in place, much of the guesswork is gone. You have narrowed down the choices to these 6 one-beat rhythms. Just the process of writing the rhythm menu prepares your brain and your ear for what is possible, and you know how to notate it. Are these 6 the only compound rhythms used? No, of course not, but you are anticipating and preparing. Using a rhythm menu is a great tool, especially when you are practicing and building your skills for melodic dictation. When taking the AP Music Theory exam, remember your time limit. Write only part of the rhythm menu that helps you focus on the meter. What about the possibility of a chromatic note in major key? It could occur, just like it could occur in harmonic dictation in free response 4, harmonizing the melody in free response 7, and sight singing, because the skills overlap. From our study of chromatic harmony, we have learned that the most common chromatic notes are the raised 4th scale degree, Phi, and the raised 5th scale degree, C, and sometimes the raised tonic, D. By far the most common pattern is Fa, Fi, So, and So, Fi, So. Here we have an example of this. We have Do, Re, Mi, Fa, So, Fi, So, La, Si, La, Ti, So, Do. Tip number 3. How do melodies begin? Many melodies have similar beginnings. We use this approach in harmonic dictation as well. The 2 most common beginnings for melodies are Do, Re, Mi, and Do, Mi, So in both major and minor. But in minor, that would be May instead of Mi. A very common beginning in a minor key is Do, Ti, Do, because the pattern requires the writing of an accidental. So here we have an example in major and in minor. We can see that this is different. So we have Do, Re, Mi, Do, Mi, So, and Do, Ti, Do. And here we have the same thing but in minor instead. So tip number 4, how do melodies end? When a melody is coming to its conclusion, it is heading home to Do, the tonic, scale degree number 1. Here are the commonly used endings in melodic dictation. We have Mi, Re, Do, or So, Fa, Mi, Re, Do. We have, okay, it's not included in these, but it says here as well, Do, Ti, Do, and Do, Re, Do. Oh, they just, Do, Re, Do is here, but not Do, Ti, Do. We have Re, Ti, Do, or Ti, Re, Do, and we have Fa, Ti, Do. The tritone is created between the Fa and the Ti in both major and harmonic minor. Also, we have So, Ti, Do, and Mi, Ti, Do. So these both sound different in major and minor, and these are identical in major and harmonic minor. So if you want to go back to chapter 4, you can review the top 10 melodic patterns. Tip number 5, what is in the middle? Now the middle is not so easy. What can you expect? Anticipate most stepwise motion with 1 or 2 skips or leaps. If there is a skip, more than a third, it is most often going to Do or So, or coming from Do to So, or So. Another common occurrence is a half cadence in the middle of the example because this is melody only, there is no harmony, but melody implies harmony, particularly in specific places within the phrase. If a 4-measure example ends on Do, the tonic, that would imply a perfect authentic cadence. Most of the melody or melodic dictation exercises are symmetrical, meaning balancing between 2 equal halves. Anticipate a weaker cadence somewhere near the end of the 2nd measure or to create an antecedent-consequent relationship within the melody. This cadence is generally not marked by significantly longer durations, but more by shape and contour of the line, as well as pitches from the dominant triad so, re, te. So, ti, re, sorry. Remember that half cadences don't always occur at the very end of the measure. Often the antecedent phrase will end with a half cadence, and the next phrase will begin with an anacrusis. Think about the shape or contour of a melody. If the shape is flowing downward at the end of the first phrase, an anacrusis beginning the next phrase will normally start with an ascending movement. In the last 10 years, 18 of our 20 melodic dictation exercises have implied a half cadence or imperfect authentic cadence near the middle of the example, and 17 out of 20 followed the implied half cadence with an anacrusis leading into the next phrase. 20 out of 20 have ended on do, the tonic. So to prepare you for this, near the halfway point, write the names of the pitches above the measures that are so, ti, re, 5, 7, and 2, as a reminder of what you are anticipating. Prepare your brain for what might occur and let your ear confirm it. Tip 6. Don't write until you have heard the entire example. I teach with this method because I find that if you start writing immediately upon hearing the first measure, your brain is no longer focused on the melody, but on one measure or pattern. Use the 100% of your attention to hear the melody to the end, assigning solfege or numbers to the melodic patterns that you are able to identify in the first hearing. Try and sing the melody to yourself internally, then write. Other teachers may suggest that students should begin to write when the music is playing. Try both methods and identify your own strengths to determine which process to use. After the first hearing, your goal should be to be able to write the first and last measures, and to have an idea of the shape or contour of the melody and the exact location of an implied half cadence. Other things to listen for are where so and do occurs. Or if rhythm is an easier element for you, sketch out rhythms and where they are located within the measure. The melody will come back to do, usually more than once. Tip 7. Don't be afraid to use the backdoor. You may be able to get the first two measures, draw a blank in the middle, but come back in toward the end. Perhaps you hear ti-do ending but are not sure what comes before that. Does the melody approach the pattern, ti-do, from above or below ti? Think about the shape of the line of the melody and what the pitches imply, and once again, listen for patterns. Work backwards from what you know to find what you don't know. So this is two familiar patterns here. We have sol-la-ti-do and re-ti-do, but rhythms may confuse. So recurring from an earlier pattern helps to identify the interval so-ti at the end, or if you can identify so-ti at the end, knowing that may help you identify the earlier patterns. Tip 8. When you are done knowing, guess. If you have written notes in the space around the staff suggesting solfege or pitch numbers and or contour and or rhythm, guess. What looks like a viable melody? Does it match the shape and rhythm? You can even go back to the melodic dictation pages when you have finished other portions of your response section and fill in the blanks with educated guesses. When a reader sees a melodic dictation example with the first two notes written and then a completely blank staff, that's a signal that the student did not have a plan. Hopefully, you have been practicing your oral skills fundamentals with the chapter 11 oral skills part 2, or in this case you have been watching the videos and the quizzes and the practice examples and all that, which provides progressive exercises, 15 2-measures example in compound meter and 8 3-measure examples in simple meter, in preparation for these sample exercises, which are similar in difficulty to what you may find on the AP Music Theory exam. After you have completed the progressive exercises, you are ready to practice for the exam with these sample questions. And that is it for the strategies for melodic dictation, free response 1 and free response 2. If you want, you can go continue on to the quiz or the practice exercise questions next video. But thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, leave a comment or subscribe or a thumbs up and post any questions in the comments for sure. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you.